welcome, as I mentioned, to everyone. If you have any questions, please put it in our Q&A. I'm going to allow our two panelists, Mariem, Ortiz, and Sophia, Cady, to introduce themselves. And they're going to give a little overview as to who they are, who they work for, and also find out how they entered the industry. So I'm going to take lead off of them. They're the experts, and we want to hear what they have to say. So I'm going to hand it over. Mariem, if you can kick us off, and Sophia, you can follow afterwards.
Of course. Welcome, everyone. My name is Mariem Ortiz. I'm the general manager for Creative Electron. So we manufacture and design X-ray cabinets for, I like to say we X-ray things, not people. That's the easiest way I can explain it. So basically medical devices, electronic devices, things like that. And it's a pretty exciting company. We get to do a lot of innovation and learn about how things work. I'm an engineer by training. So I think my background's a little interesting. I just completed my MBA actually last month. So now I allegedly know some about business. So it's been really fun. I've been growing with the company throughout different departments, and now I'm kind of overseeing all the departments and mostly dealing with people. It's been really fun.
Awesome, and I am Sophia, Cady. So I am I got my degree from Virginia Tech in materials science and engineering. And I then found TTM Technologies, which is a printed circuit board manufacturing company. So we manufacture the bare circuit boards before you put any of the components on them. And I'm a process engineer for most of the mechanical processes. So for drilling the board, so I have laser drill where we do really small, like hundreds of inches small microvia laser holes in boards, and then through holes. And then I'm also the route department, so the final routing out the final shape of the board, and vision, so aligning to optical targets and drilling, routing, doing different things. So mostly mechanical. I did a little bit with X-ray in terms of circuit boards as well. So registration, so how the layers of the board align to each other, and overall the registration of the overall circuit board as well.
Wow. So thank you. You guys have done a lot so far in your career. If you need to give advice to students or individuals who are very much interested to join the industry, they either in high school or they're studying towards an associate's degree or a four-year engineering school, what advice would you be able to share that can make them better understand and get an insight into the industry about y'all's career journey? Like how did you enter? What was kind of those factors that made you choose where you are today? Sophia, if you want to go first, you can go.
Sure. So I kind of found the industry right after I had graduated. I was looking for jobs. I wanted to stay in the Virginia area around DC because that's where a lot of my college friends were going. And so I found this online, and I applied, and I was just really, really interested in the whole process. And then coming here and taking a tour and looking at the manufacturing facility, it was really cool for me, watching a process from like start to end. So that's how I kind of got into it. I think, in school, there's so many different things you can kind of do to start getting involved in different things, design. I don't know. I think at Virginia Tech, at least, there was different, design teams and design things that, if you're really interested in electronics, there was like an electric car design team and things like that. So I think that would be definitely a good way to start getting involved. And then, for me, it's like this industry is really awesome at you learn as you go, but there's so many people that can help you, and it's fast paced and you pick things up fast, and there's always something new to learn. So really it's if you're ready, if you're, you know, if you want to learn, if you want to keep busy and work hard, and you know, every day is different, and you know, there's a lot to learn, and once you're doing it, you get a hang of it.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, I feel like you have to have that hungry spirit, right? And you have to be proactive and put yourself out there.
Yes.
So, wow, I love it. It sounds challenging, but it's actually fun while you do it.
Exactly.
Mariem, what do you say?
So similar to Sophia, I found this job online. I just applied, and at the time, I don't know about you, Sophia, but for me, it was very kind of difficult to understand how a mechanical engineering degree translated to the real world. So I knew what school was like, but I didn't really know what like the work life would be like. So I was in between two positions, actually. One was out of state in South Carolina for a mechanical design position. So a very kind of cookie cutter job for a new graduate out of mechanical engineering. And my other option was here, local to San Diego, Creative Electron, which was at the time, I think it was 10 of us, something like that. So tiny company. So I interviewed for both. I was kind of in the last round for both. And at the end of the day, I decided Creative Electron, smaller company, would probably expose me to more areas. And I think that was the primary motivation for me, to be able to learn more about things, understand what I liked, what I didn't like, and then like what I would be good at, because I was very lost right after college. And then the other thing that was key for me was the team. So getting to see the interactions between people at the company, getting to see like Creative Electron's very like innovative. Our CEO, he's super smart, just coming up with like new products. The team's awesome, a lot of joking around, a lot of like learning from each other. So those were the two key things that landed me at Creative Electron. But yeah, I think similar to Sophia, there's a lot of opportunities to volunteer or like get exposed to the industry on campus. For me, to add to that, I just say, just be proactive, like go actually talk to people that have the job that you think you want and ask them questions. What do they do every day? What do they like about their job? What don't they like about their job? Because believe it or not, no jobs are perfect. Each job has the thing that, you know, this is the annoying part of my job, but you have to get it done. So if you find a job that it's like 80% pleasant, then I think you're in a good spot. But yeah, similar to Sophia, I think one of the things that I really like about this industry is how dynamic it is. And if you like, electronics ends up going into almost everything, right? So it's such a good way to get exposed, like get variety in what you do. That's important for me because I get bored easily. And then there's like the innovation that occurs in electronics, like things just getting smaller and smaller and more powerful. That's super cool. So to be able to be part of that is very, very exciting.
Can you maybe share, Mariem, in terms of kind of the most exciting project that the team has ever worked on? Or something that is life-changing to you that, you know, can impact millions of people and we don't even know about it as a potential consumer or the general public. Please share a story or two of that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, of course. So I unfortunately can't mention a lot of customer names because of privacy, NDA, that kind of stuff. So for us, it's been, we've done different projects in different industries. And to me, that's the most exciting part of it. X-ray is a very kind of known, needed equipment in the electronics industry, but it's not as used in other industries where they could really benefit from seeing through their objects. And like I'd say probably one of the most exciting projects was anything that we have to do inline inspection, because it involves either conveyor belts or robotics. We put like cobots on the outside of machines to load samples in and out, or robots inside of the machine itself so that they can, you know, get the right angle of inspection and then sort the object into whatever categories that the customer outlined. So those are the most exciting ones. And usually they come with custom software development. That's one of our, I think one of the things that makes us unique. We have a full engineering and software design team in-house. So just, you know, like we really like to work with the customer. Anything that's like a custom application, that's not going to be a cookie cutter product. We not only do we like understand the piece of the puzzle that they're trying to fix, but we kind of like look beyond, like how else can we add value? And we end up building like some pretty complex machines with, you know, laser thickness for measurements and scales to know the precise weights, and you can do measurements and things with x-rays. So anything that's like in line, I'd say, is the most exciting stuff. And then in terms of applications, we've done anything from high-end fashion to detect if a Chanel purse was a real purse or a fake. That one was pretty fun. We've done stuff in like the sports industry, like golf ball manufacturing, to know if things are aligned and centered. That makes for a better golf ball. Electronics, like I said, that's a big one. So we're looking for like voiding or like things, shorts and things like that. And yeah, medical devices, airbags. So really lots of different applications.
Wow, that's exciting. And I mean, if you think about a golf ball, you would really not think that has anything to do with electronics. And there you go. I learned something new. I remember someone said if you go to Top Golf, they track, they can, that's probably, I don't know, but this seems a little bit more advanced than that. Right?
Just a little bit. So I mean, it's still related with that. You can get some measurements, and they're like measuring deflection of the ball, and you know, whether it's the ball's fault or is it the person's bad golf. That's a debate that we can never figure out.
I love it. I love it. Sophia, what can you add? I mean, you've probably seen a lot of projects as well, the ones that you've really enjoyed.
Yeah, so as a process engineer for drill and route, what I've been focused on is basically just seeing how we can, like Mariem said, you know, everything is getting smaller and more condensed, and everyone is, you know, going towards having, you know, smaller things that have a larger capability. So for projects, really, I've been involved in testing a lot of different things. So when we're drilling boards or when we're routing boards, each board circuit board is different. It's made up of, you know, any number of layers of different circuitry, different materials, different thicknesses, different hole sizes, different shapes, everything like that. So just testing all of that and seeing how different materials react to different things has been a lot of fun. I've done processes trying to use a laser to kind of cut a shape into something, but not damage what was underneath it, which was pretty fun. Different sort of drilling or milling, different jobs. I'm trying to think of something, but yeah, just I've done a lot of kind of testing and projects like that, where you're looking at different material interactions and different parameters and settings that achieve the best result.
And so what happens if something is totally wrong? What is the process? Is there a specific way that you need to go about fixing something, reporting it? Like, what does that level of inspection kind of need to comply with?
Yeah, so if something's totally wrong, there can be a lot of different things. So we have all circuit boards have specific standards that you have to be built to, so different rules, and then there's different classes of boards. So where I work is mainly for aerospace and defense. So we build for aerospace and defense for the most part. And so we're kind of the highest class of board. So you have to follow pretty strict rules and guidelines to be able to ship the boards and prove that they're good and that they're reliable. So for things like drill, if you're drilling a hole through a circuit board with the incorrect parameters, you can cause the material to have cracks, like almost like when you break glass, you have like a crack that goes through the layer, which is not good. Or you can take the material and smear it down the whole wall. You can cause really bad burrs on the exit side where the material kind of just pokes out on the exit side. So things like that are, if you don't do it the correct way, you can't plate the hole right. You can't, you know, the process down the line doesn't matter because it will fail from what you did at drill or route. You can cause the edges of the board to fracture which is not fun. Things like
Has it
that.
ever happened to you, like the whole fracture thing?
Yeah, you know, it's just being process engineering is really interesting because I can basically take my process, and half of my job is trying to look at the process and improve upon it and see what you can do to make it overall, you know, easier for operators to do their job. Basically make sure that you're add things in place that you don't scrap or you ruin and have to throw away boards. So that's kind of like making the process better, or with new technology coming in, you know, totally coming up with and inventing a new process or a new procedure. So writing procedures, testing and writing processes, things like that. And then the other half is, since we're manufacturing, you know, we're moving things through the shop every day. So I'll get in the morning and there's a list of things that are on hold for me because they have a question about something, or they tried something and it doesn't look right. So the other half is basically problem solving, where I see a problem that we're having, and if it's you know, if it is being drilled and they find an issue, I can fix it, like look at it there, fix it, and move the panels. Or if it's something that comes up from inspection, then you kind of have to go back and solve the problem and kind of write the story on what happened, how did it happen, how are we going to fix it, how are we going to keep it from happening again. So it's kind of like two different sides. So that's why it's day to day completely different, because you can find different problems. I mean, it never ceases to amaze me the amount of different things that will pop up. That it keeps it interesting and exciting. And
Oh, I love it. And you kind of shared kind of the day in the life of being a Sophia at TTM. So Mariem, do you want to share maybe how your day to day looks like? I assume it's also not the same, but it would be great to share a little bit of how you take on that managing role.
Yeah, of course. So I don't work with the products as much as I did when I started my career. But it's kind of interesting because even as it, like, let's call the products are more people, right? Because you're managing people and getting people to do certain things that are in the company's best interest and all of that. It tends to be very similar to what Sophia was saying. So you're looking at how things currently work, and then you know what your end condition is. And sometimes it's like you're iterating on a current process and trying to improve on what you currently have. And other times it's creating something from scratch. And we kind of, I mean, we always like to say, let's make mistakes, but let's not make the same mistake over and over again. Only new mistakes. That's kind of our rule. And then we always do a debrief, like, what did we learn after this mistake, right? We tried something. It's part of our DNA, right? Innovation, it's part of who we are. So that means mistakes are going to happen. That means, you know, some things are not going to work out, and that's fine as long as we learn from it and are able to move from that. So my job is a lot. Some of it is project based. So if I have like a project in inventory, then the next 2 months will be, you know, I'll be at the warehouse working with the team regularly. I could have an accounting project or little different things in different departments, customer service. So my day-to-day looks pretty different. I do like to keep the mornings to myself. So I kind of block my first 2 hours of the workday, and that's when I do like my deeper thinking type of work. Because once the day gets crazy, I'm just meeting after meeting after meeting. And sometimes if I don't block out that time for me to actually do something, it feels like nothing got accomplished. So for me, it's a little more about knowing, like, it's about prioritizing. I think that's probably the most powerful thing I've learned in my career. And understanding like what needs to get done now versus what can be done at a later time, and then scheduling it. And then what things I need to do versus someone else on my team can do them potentially even better than me, right? So understanding like what I can delegate, and then working with the team, you know, to let them go through their mistakes and helping grow the team, helping grow the leadership. That's what I really enjoy doing. And sometimes there's fires, and that's how it is. And there's the fire, and that takes all your attention and derails your plan completely. But for the most part, it's just about understanding what my core goals are for the week and making sure things are on track. And that usually means working with different departments and the interface between departments. That's also the really fun parts, because once you get people to work together, then you get a really powerful team. I think you're muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
Thanks. I agree with you in terms of the prioritization. I think that's a skill in itself. One year, the CEO of actual IPC, CNO President Dr. John Mitchell, he mentioned to me one year, he said, I would suggest you read the book, Getting Things Done. And that was such an eye-opener in terms of how you actually work through all of the things that you need to accomplish and prioritize them in terms of urgency and level of, you know, high level to low level. It was very interesting. So I would advise everyone out there, if you're interested in you know, getting some additional skills before you end up in a role like Mariem, you at least understand a little bit to it. And then what Sophia and you mentioned, it just made me think about the key role communication plays. To convey the right message, to ensure everybody's on the same page, because I assume if certain people think this is the way to do it and it's not, then you can run into problems. So maybe you can share a story, each one of you, with the audience, in terms of how important communication was, just like an example, if you can think of one, whether it was a good or a bad result. So I'm not sure who of you can think of one first, and the one that's first, you can start sharing it.
I have a couple that come to mind. I'd say our team, we have a small team, so we're still pretty good at communicating internally. Where we start to run into issues is with the customer expectations. So a lot of the times when we have custom projects, and now we have an official project manager working with us, so that's made things way smoother. But when we're first starting out in the custom work, this is, you know, you kind of have to understand exactly what the customer wants to get out of the product and what's feasible from your engineering team. And I used to be kind of the interface between the customer and our internal team, and going back and forth. So we learned the hard way that if there's not a written document, a statement of work at the beginning of the project, then the scope just continues to increase and increase and increase. And it just starts pulling resources from teams. And really the biggest impact is the morale on both, right? The customer starts to get disappointed because their expectation wasn't met. And then our team just continues to get disappointed. They're drained continuing to work on the same project. We don't feel like we're getting things accomplished and done, which is very important, that closure feeling, like, you know, the accomplishment of finishing a project. So we've had a couple of issues like that in the past. We've shipped machines that for our standards were done and completed, and then the customer was not exactly what they were looking for. So then repairing or, you know, improving upon those things once the machine's in the field makes it 1,000 times more expensive, harder. There's travel back and forth, there's like remote connections. So it's just a situation where we've learned a lot. And, you know, so we've from that, it goes back to like working with the team, right? Like, okay, this clearly didn't go well. What worked well in this project? And then learning about, okay, what should we try next time so that these parts that we had issues with don't happen again. And that's what we continue to do with all of our processes. But I agree with you, like documentation is huge, like communication is huge. I always recommend to anyone in general, but especially anyone on my team, if there's a verbal conversation happening, make sure there is a follow-up email outlining exactly what was described, right? Like who's responsible for what part, what were the dates discussed, and what were the actual items that were covered in that conversation. So our team's gotten really good at creating accompanying documentation to any project, and that's been because we've been burned before. And absolutely, like the issue was communication and just mismatched expectations.
Yeah, paper trail, very important. Awesome, thank you, Mariem. Sophia, can you add to this?
Yeah, so I can talk more about, you know, internal communication. I don't work as much with the customers, but internally I've learned a lot of things, especially dealing with either issues that arise or major projects or testing or things like that, where communication is very important. I know everyone always says, you know, you can never over communicate. So because there can be things that are happening and it gets around and people think that they know what's going on, but they heard, you know, something from someone and it's twisted a different way, and then everyone's confused. So definitely one of the big things in terms of communication, I mean, we're in person, so I really like face-to-face interactions, because I think that's, for me, the best way you can talk to the person or talk to people and get that feedback. I do agree with Mariem, you know, after that, putting it in writing is a good way to track it, so you can, you know, make sure that, you know, it was discussed and that it's recorded and documented what was decided upon. But definitely having meetings and inviting, you know, you got to think about, you know, not only one or a few certain people that it would affect. You got to think, you know, big picture, who needs to know what and how it affects everyone else. So, you know, communicating to everyone that needs to know so that everyone's on the same page is very, very important. Whether it's a test result or something that you found out that was wrong and what you're doing to fix it. So, you know, having an agenda and a plan, you know, and then communicating that to the people that need to know.
Fantastic. Thank you for adding to that. And it's very important for me to communicate to you to ask. In terms of your high school journey, so you're in high school, have you ever considered working in this industry? Did you think it was fantastic? Did you go to university or college to end up where you are today? Like, what was your aspirations versus where you are today? I think that would be a fun answer.
I could start. So in high school, I think all growing up, I knew I was interested in the STEM fields. I always liked, you know, the science and the math, and that was really interesting. So I knew, like, in my mind that I would get into something STEM. I never thought I would be building circuit boards. You know, I really didn't even know anything about building circuit boards when I started, you know, so it's definitely a step. I was really interested in chemistry, which is why I studied material science and engineering, because I thought it was kind of like combining some of the chemistry to something more applicable that you could kind of go out and give you lots of different options. But like Mariem said, when you kind of are sitting there and you're trying to see what your degree can do, you know, how you can take your school degree and apply it to a job, definitely is a little daunting and when trying to find that out. So, you know, like I said, I kind of fell into this by applying, but it's like it's STEM because it's engineering. It's you know, you're doing testing and projects and all of that stuff. But yeah, I never thought that I would end up here. But I stayed the STEM track, which is what I wanted to.
I love it. And it seems like you're enjoying it. So it's definitely not a boring career. Yeah. And from here on, you see yourself growing inside the company, right? There's many other roles for you to end up, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the electronics industry, especially in the PCB, the printed circuit board industry, there's a lot of room for growth and for learning. So right now in the industry, I think a lot of the circuit board manufacturing went overseas for a while, went overseas, and we're kind of like, they're missing a little bit of a gap of knowledge of like the 30, 40-year-olds, because everything went overseas and now it's starting to come back. So we have in the industry, we have, you know, the very, very knowledgeable people who've been in the industry for a while, and then you have a lot of the new people starting out. So they're definitely looking for talent, and there's a lot of opportunity for growth. I've been with the company for about 3 years, and I have, you know, I've learned so much. Every day I learn something new, and there's so many different processes and small niche things that you think you know everything, and then you come across something else, and you're like, oh wow, that's cool. So definitely within the industry, within the company, I've had a lot of experiences getting to talk with upper management, the CEO of the company. So getting that exposure as well has given me, you know, I mean, I've learned a lot more than just how to build a circuit board. But yeah, I think there's a lot of room for growth and opportunity.
So basically your advice is, in a way, to, if you're passionate about the same careers and you have a passion for working in an environment or in an industry that is ever changing, it's adaptable, there's always new things, it's fun things, working with teams, fast paced, this is the career for you. All you need to do is just enter and take it from there every day. Go, go, go.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, I knew what a circuit board was, but that's about it. So you learn as you go, and there's a lot of knowledgeable mentors that have helped me throughout, that have taught me, you know, not just how to do it, but the reasoning behind it. So you kind of gain an overall knowledge, not just, oh, you just do it this way. And that's what it's really, really interesting about it, is it's really complex, but once you get in, you'll learn.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Mariem, your career journey, like out of high school, what intrigued you, the kind of steps that evolved, because it's a little bit different from Sophia. And that's what's awesome, because we have different perspectives.
Yeah. So I was actually born and raised in Mexico. So I did high school in Mexico. And I always knew I wanted to come to the US for college. So that was kind of my focus, you know, blinders on throughout college. I did, it's kind of the equivalent of AP classes. It's called IB, International Baccalaureate. So I did those honors classes in high school, all hoping to be able to, you know, get into a good school, get a good scholarship. Same thing as Sophia, I kind of always knew STEM was my route. I was like, what career path makes me write 0 essays? And that's the one I want to take. Math sounds great. Physics sounds awesome. So I did know that was kind of my path. But in terms of, and my dad's an engineer as well. We like to joke about who's a better engineer, the industrial engineer or the mechanical engineer, just, you know. But so he definitely was part of the inspiration, the way that I think, the way that I solve problems. And the more granular breakdown of what I actually ended up majoring in was decided by the school I ended up going to. So small school here in San Diego, fantastic school. I had an awesome experience there. But at the time we only had industrial, mechanical, and electrical. And I knew I didn't want industrial. Again, me and my dad love each other, but butting heads. So I needed to be different than him. So between electrical and mechanical engineering had a guitar making class. So that's what decided it for me. It's like lab where I get to make a full on guitar. It was awesome. It was a super cool class. So that's how I ended up in the mechanical. But really, and I'm curious about Sophia's experience. I think once you're in the engineering route, we all end up being slightly industrial engineers, because you're always looking at process improvement. You're always looking at, like, especially in a production environment. So I'd never use any of like the formulas that I learned in college, but what it really does set you up for is this methodology of solving problems, right? How do you think about a problem? Scientific method. I was just talking about my cousin, to my cousin yesterday about this, because he's also an engineer. We're the only 2 engineers in the family. So he's like, the rest of my siblings look at me weird when I ask these questions and I gather my data and then I make a decision, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, we're just wired different, but it's a good thing. It ends up being good for teams to have people that think in this way. So yeah, that was kind of my high school to college transition, and then the selection of my career in college. And then in terms of the industry, similar, like I had no idea what a BGA was. I remember like studying for my interview and I was just like, okay, like, let me look at this website, and I saw a BGA there. I'm like, what is a BGA? I have no idea. So I'm trying to do the best research I can. Luckily for me, I wasn't quizzed on any of this stuff, because I definitely would not have gotten the job. But that's part of the fun. You get to learn about different things. And as long as the industry, like the electronics industry, keeps changing, which it will continue, right? Like now we see electronics and things that didn't have them before, like footballs or whatever. Right now we're tracking everything. Helmets, I guess, have them now too for football, so that you can detect the hits, or I don't know. So as long as that keeps trending in that direction, our company will have to continue to innovate and keep changing to keep up. So that's one of the really, really fun things about an industry like electronics, or I guess for us, we're not necessarily squarely in electronics, but adjacent to electronics for sure. So it does matter when you're in an industry that you have to innovate continuously and have to come up with new things. It keeps you learning and it keeps you challenged. That's one of the big things for me for retention. If I start to get bored, then it just, it's not gonna hold my attention for too long. So it is very exciting to be in this industry, and similar to Sophia's experience, like once you get your foot in the door, I found that stage to be kind of difficult, the college to the workforce transition, like applying for a job, all very scary and all these things. And in a foreign country, my family's somewhere else, all these things, right? So, but once you're in a company, I think you get a lot of opportunities, and if you can be proactive about it and like show interest, and that's another thing that I would say, like for sure, don't pretend to show interest in something you're not actually interested in. I think people can tell, right? So there has to be something that you're genuinely interested about in the company that you're working in. And if you try to start solving problems in that area, then you'll start getting more work, and just show your interest to your supervisors, talk to your peers, try to understand what it would look like to do like a lateral transfer, something like that. Once you're in an industry, it really becomes a lot easier to kind of hone in on your craft and like start to learn about, okay, this is what I'm good at. These are my strengths, right? This is what I bring to the team, which is a huge part of the success for your career. You need to know what you bring to the table as well. So those are some of the things that for me were like the most, I don't know, some of the best years of my life for sure, like understanding that, industry where I fit, what I add to a company. And it's made my whole career very, very fun so far.
Well, thank you so much for being inspirational. I know we've always, get these teachers and professors and instructors and industry, and they're very proud of female engineers in the industry. And both of you represent everything that there is about career progression, facing adversity, coming from other countries, industries. We just want to say thank you for who you are as individuals and for being part of the industry. And I know that there is definitely students and people interested to enter and to see you as their role models, and we hope that they can follow in your footsteps to be ambassadors like what you are. So thank you so much for your time. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share, final thoughts to anyone interested to enter the industry?
I think I'd continue to say, like, just follow your genuine interests, like curiosity. You can't teach that. That's what I look for when I'm recruiting people. Everything else, all the technical stuff, I can teach them that. But that spark of curiosity that you bring, if there's genuine interest in a job, that's your most powerful weapon. So definitely continue to explore that. What does that mean for you? And it's going to be different for each person. And make sure that you're at least slightly expressive about it to the people you're working with, because people notice, and that really matters.
Yeah, I agree with that. Interest, and don't be afraid to try something. I didn't know what to expect coming here, and it has been the best. Like, I've had so much fun. I've learned so much in these 3 years. So, it's daunting looking at what you want to do and where you're going to go. But like Mariem said, if it sparks your interest at all, or if you're like, oh, this is interesting, I say go for it, and just be ready to learn and grow and work with your supervisor. Like a career development plan is really, really nice to have. Gives you kind of stepping stones of what you should be looking for, like what your end goal is, or what your 5-year goal is, and then stepping stones along the way to get there. So you don't get lost in the day-to-day. You kind of have the big goals of, okay, like I'm doing this now and I'm working towards this, or this is something that a skill that I want to work on and gain you know, more experience with and stuff like that. So, you know, once you're in the industry, definitely having, you know, a mentor, a good career path is helpful in terms of, for me, like motivation and just, you know, it helps me figure out what to do and when to do it and things like that. So definitely career path, and don't be afraid to just take the leap and see what happens.
I agree. And like Mariem, she has an MBA now. She's probably going to do other things. You're going to do other certifications, and, you know, professional development for yourself is as important as it is for your employer. And my husband always uses the term, like, you are a business of one, because you are who you are. And so stay true to yourself during the course and your journey. And we as IPC Education Foundation wish you all the best with your future endeavors, and we will follow you through the journey, and we hope that everything that you want to accomplish professionally comes true.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, you're welcome. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Friday and the rest of the fourth quarter. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. You too. Have a great day.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. This will be recorded and available on IPC Education Foundation YouTube channel. Have a good day. Bye.